How's it going, guys? Hope everyone's having a good day. Today we had on Louis Gonzalez. He is a Ju Jitsu competitor and also a instructor for Ju Jitsu. He's got a really cool story. I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. I found it super interesting talking with him. His Instagram is going to be linked down below. Please go check that out. Give him some love. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Hope you guys have an awesome day. All right, man. So, how you been? What have you been up to?
Doing good, brother. Working, training,
Yeah,
um, getting ready for the holidays.
yeah. It's that time of
So,
year, man. It's super exciting.
sure, right? For sure. Yeah.
Um,
Very, very busy.
so let's start off the podcast with kind of like your story into getting into work and like kind of where you're from and like where you came up and everything.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I was born in Puerto Rico, right? So, when I was like, let's say, 2, 3 years old, we moved out here, and I was raised in Holyoke, Mass. Um, I started working young, man. By the time I was like 14, I got my first job as a bagger in a grocery store. Um, I kind of worked my way up the ladder there while going through high school. As I was graduating, I was expecting my first child.
Oh,
So that
wow.
was my gift, my graduation gift. So it was a grind. It was a grind, man. So again, I worked at 14 all the way to 18, had my first kid. So I was contemplating, staying in the workforce and juggling, college and all that. So it was a lot to take on, but um, one of the biggest traits I learned from my father was, always take care of your family and just work hard, work a hard work ethic. So I I juggle both things, college and work. Um, I was still working at the grocery store. Funny story is one of the assistant managers, he took a liking to me because he had kind of the same situation. He had a kid at a young age, and we already knew each other for about a year, but we weren't close friends. He got me a job as a merchandiser
Oh,
for
okay.
the Home Depot,
Yeah.
and well, he put his name out there, reference, and I did the whole interview thing, and it just like opened the door to all the connections that I've made along the way. So I'm very grateful for my buddy. His name's Jose. So yeah, back to the work thing. I was actually working the two jobs for like 3 years.
Oh,
So I was
wow.
averaging like 60, 70 hours a week
And that's with a
from like
kid too, right?
with my firstborn. Yep, she's 16 now. Well, she's turning 16. Um, so I worked the grocery store. I made my way up to like an assistant manager, like the buddy that referred me to the other job, and then as a merchandiser, I made it up to like a senior merchandiser. I didn't it wasn't a manager, so to speak, but I oversaw a few people. So it was a big workload. But I just, again,
Was
I
it like
was,
being like a team leader type deal?
yeah, like a team leader. Yeah, it's the best
Okay.
thing. I don't remember the exact title, but I went from regular merchandiser to like a team leader, so to speak. And yeah, man. Up until 21, I was working both jobs. I ended up finally letting the grocery uh store job go. I was making more than enough money at the time. Like
Yeah.
when I started, minimum wage was, I tell kids now, I was like, minimum wage was 650. I don't know what's I forgot the age difference between me and you, but I turned 34. I tell people that,
Bro.
they're like, oh my god. I was like, man, I started at 650,
Dude, I'm trying
right?
to even think what it was when I started. I think it was $10 an hour when I
Yeah,
started.
yeah. And I got to check with the kids, like with the I say kids, like teenagers in high school, that I teach in jujitsu, and I'm like, what's minimum wage now? Because I can't keep track of this stuff.
It's like
They told
15
me like
bucks.
14, like it's gonna be $15 soon. I'm like, man, you guys have no idea what how different it was, and it doesn't feel like that long ago. Like we're talking about 2006, 2007.
Yeah,
Like
man.
it's crazy,
Well,
you
it's
know?
funny like the perspective of time because like 2005 seems like I don't know, that's kind of like when I where I base a lot of my time off of cuz I was
Okay,
young then, but like I was in what like middle school, something like that. But like to
okay.
think that like oh we're going to be in 2023 pretty soon, it's just like Shit.
Yeah, it flies. Like, oh yeah, it is a pretty long time ago. But
But
but yeah, from there, um, I worked for as a merchandiser lead, you know, like a team leader merchandiser, and I was really kind of just stuck, you know, like I wasn't. I actually went through. So in '08 we had, you know, the recession happened,
mm-hmm.
right? So in merchandising, back then especially, it was just a very it wasn't the most like not I don't want to say reliable. What's like steady? You know, they always tell you like, you know, a steady job is like nursing, something that's guaranteed. Uh, Merchandising and sales is always a very tricky business to be in because it's like a company could get bought out.
Mm-hmm.
They could get bought out like, you know, just a portion of it, or even outright. I mean, the 12 years that I worked here, we probably changed names like 10 times.
Oh wow.
We were told that we might get laid off like 3 times. So I kind of just got it. It also helped with my mindset because I kind of got numb to it. You know, at first, the first one was like during the recession, they were talking about, you know, they bought out the company, part of the company, and we might get laid off. And I was worried again. I have a kid. She's what, not even 2 years old at the time now. And I remember this when my manager told me, because I was like, hey, can I at least get a heads up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain quotes that stick with me that, like, you know, they kind of like they mold you. My manager told me, he said, Louis, I don't know what's going on, but just remember this: we're all replaceable. And he wasn't being rude about it, but I was like, holy shit, like he's right, you know, like somebody else could just come in and do what I do, you know. And not every job is like that, but what I was doing, like, you didn't need a college degree, you didn't, you know, you just, if you worked hard, you're in merchandising. You had, you know, knowledge and how to deal with like a tablet. Or
Mm-hmm.
at that time, it was actually we called it a Telzon. It's like I wish I could see a picture of this thing. It was like a. Do you remember the sidekicks?
Yeah,
When you run
yeah.
the phone, like it wasn't even smartphones yet. So like it was crazy. You had like a scanner plug to it, and that's how
Oh
we did our orders. Now it's all based off a tablet.
wow. I
So,
was thinking
yeah,
like, because I also came from grow. That's actually something that got you and me talking was, I worked at a Big Y for 5 years. So
right. Okay. Yep.
I was thinking like, you know, the scan guns they got with like it's got like the number
Yep.
pad and the whole alphabet and all that shit, and then an LCD
Yeah.
screen on top. I was thinking one of
Yeah.
those, but
That's pretty much what it looked like. But it was just like it was like a boxy, it like a big fat calculator, and then you just plug this cord, and you had this like a gun. You just scan stuff,
oh
and
okay,
it would show these little numbers. It's like thinking back at it, I'm like, I don't even know how I did that for so many years because now I just use a tablet
yeah,
and punch in. But yeah, from there, I made some connections with Coke Northeast,
oh okay,
and I'm an account manager for. I've been an account manager for 2 years now for Coke Northeast out of Greenfield. So it's got me traveling all over the place. So it's like I tell people, it's just um, same product, like same workflow, different product. You know, I met people from all sorts of a bunch of companies like Frito Lay, like all these companies that you wouldn't see when you're trying to apply for work. You
hmm
know, like you go on like Monster or any other app and you're looking for work, like, you know, your regular stuff pops up that you see every day, but like the behind the scenes stuff, like you don't, you know, it's like I'm drinking this beverage now. It's an all-time energy drink.
oh
Have you ever heard of that?
no, actually not.
So one of my buddies was a vendor for that company, and you would never even hear about that unless you're in this field of merchandising. You make so
Yeah,
many connections. It's like it's mind blowing.
well, it's
It's good work.
interesting. Yeah,
It's
and like
very interesting.
there's like what was it? Body armor popped up for a little bit. I don't know if that's still big. And now we
Body
got
Armor,
like Celsius too.
so Body Armor is owned by Coke. So I actually stock all that stuff.
Oh, okay. And
Hmm.
that started coming around when I was in high school, so about 7 years ago.
Yeah, Body Armor does really good for us. Body Armor, Vitamin Water. Um,
Vitamin water's been around for a while.
vitamin water's been around for a while. Powerade.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff that you don't. It's interesting because like you again, unless you like have connections in with people in these with these companies, like you don't know who owns what. Like Dr. Pepper is owned by a company called Polar,
Mm-hmm.
but yet in the business is stocked in different parts of the country is stocked by Coke. So people think Coke owns Dr. Pepper,
Oh, but it
and like
doesn't.
self, no, Coke does not own Dr. Pepper, right? So it's like, yeah, merchandising and sales and especially in the grocery business is very interesting. Even in in Home Depot as well. Like there was stuff that we stocked but was owned by the Home Depot or by a different company.
Huh. So I
It's all
wonder. I wonder if it's like, does your company get paid by them to stock it, or is it just kind of like, oh, maybe
it
they
has to
stock
be.
some of your stuff and
That's like way above, like the big GMs. They sit down and deal with that stuff. But yeah,
yeah,
I would do some kind of like some kind of negotiations where everybody's benefiting from these kind of deals, right? Because
yeah,
yeah, to not own something, but yeah, you deal with the workload. There's definitely like something behind the scenes going on
yeah. It's super interesting, and I'm sure it's like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type deal,
for sure.
and or some cash. But that's really, I think it's cool to look at, and also I just kind of wanted to ask you like, because I think I learned more from working all the jobs I've worked through my time, and I'm pretty like, I don't know. I guess I'm not as young as I used to be, but
How old are
from
you now?
working
25, right?
25, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to kind of look at like what are some of the things you took from like working at a younger age? Like not a lot of I know people do a lot of people do get jobs at like 14, 15, but like I think it molds you as a person, and like you're a great guy, so it's like I can only
I
imagine the
appreciate that.
things you took from the jobs you've had.
The two biggest things I want to say is obviously the experience, getting out into the real world and just trying to create your life. So it's I'm not saying like people take it for granted, but that's one thing that I really really appreciate is like all the experience that came with it. I've met a lot of great people throughout the years. Um, and as far as the second thing would be like being able to hold myself accountable. A lot of the jobs that I've had besides the grocery store, I'm pretty much my own boss.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's something that's very difficult for a lot of people. Like it's very easy with merchandising, especially in any job that you're on your own. Like Felix, he works from home. That's another thing. You work remote. He's obviously on the phone a lot, but he has to hold himself accountable. So I respect the people that are able that I bring in or they come into this line of work and they could succeed because it's very easy to just like, all right, I clocked in, nobody's really watching me. I could do the very least minimum work and go home. And we get a good amount of people that do that. And to me, it just I don't understand it because that's again I was raised with that with the mindset of taking care of your family and working hard. So this is only just I guess callous my mindset made me stronger mentally and I've enjoyed the whole process. But it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people can't. They need to be unfortunately like they need to be supervised. Like
Hmm.
and that's okay. That's okay. Some jobs are like that, right? Like yeah, when I worked in the grocery store, you work with a team and you're going to be around other people. That's great too. The social, the interactions, the relationships that you build. But that's in the line of work that I'm in now. You have to be able to hold yourself accountable. You have to be a hard worker. You have to be able to deal with a lot of obstacles.
Hmm.
Like it's every day is different. I always say um like my wife doesn't ask me anymore. People ask me, "Oh, what time do you think you're gonna get out?" It's like it's when the work's done. It's not your typical 9 to 5. I was going to say the times that I usually start, but
Yeah.
it's not your 9 to 5. It's you start at a certain time, and it's like you got to get the job done. or make
Exactly.
sure you set yourself up for the next day, or you set your one of your guys up for the next day, because we're hitting different accounts all the time. So a long explanation there to your what I
No,
got from
I think that's great, dude. Like
so
that.
the experience and holding yourself accountable. It's just like it's been the biggest things that I've gotten from my work history right now.
Yeah, man. And I like that you went in depth with that because that's really what we're looking for here is like kind of things we can go off of. And there's two ways we can go off that. I want to stick to work for now because I we can also go into how jujitsu's kind of brought you and
Yeah,
like all
for
your
sure.
studies with that. But we'll go into that after. Um, but going into like holding yourself accountable and it shows with your story so far because I mean you're moved up into this like team leader position and you showed that like persistent grinding every day like gets you somewhere. It makes someone notice and gives you that opportunity to move forward, whereas like someone that isn't gonna grind hard and work hard is just gonna sit in that one spot, probably get their yearly raise, but they're just gonna
I
sit there
agree.
and
I
do their
agree.
thing.
100%. I agree with what you just said. The person that whether you think somebody's watching you or not, like there's always people watching, man. And I mean that shouldn't be like the reason why you're motivated, or you're trying to succeed. You should do it for yourself, but somebody's always watching, and you wouldn't believe the relationships. Like I get offers all the time. Like again, it's I from companies that you wouldn't hear of unless you're out there in the field. I just had a one of the big GMs from the company I mentioned, Polar, offer me a position
Oh wow.
better than the one that I have, but I just didn't want to leave at the moment. It didn't make sense. It has to make sense. But
Mhm.
again, I told him I'm grateful for you even thinking of me in that way. And it's funny because he's like, "Oh, you happy with your situation?" I said, "Where's this going?" And he's like, "Well, I got something lined up, man. You'll be it's like a big district manager. It would have taken me further away from home. The money was good, but it wasn't that big of a difference to what I'm making right now. So it didn't make sense. But again, like I said, I was grateful.
Mhm.
So yeah, somebody's always watching, man. Somebody's always watching. Um, the way that you carry yourself, and you do things, whether it's work or anything, it's gonna open more opportunities, right? It's
Absolutely.
definitely gonna open more opportunities, especially in the way things are going in society. I tell my oldest daughter, I said, I expect her to, make sure she's doing good in school, but I also encourage, trying anything out that you're passionate about. Like she's jumped into volleyball, was very successful. She's done plays in front of like the whole school, which I'm proud of that because I went to watch it. They did like a 4 day uh run of the play. So she went up there 4 times. And on the final time I was able to get back to town on time, and I watched. I was so emotional. I said, I don't think at her age I would have done that, because it's like the nerves, you
Yeah.
know. Now I'm pretty like very stoic and relaxed. Not a lot of things like get to me. Like um I'm able to stay composed, but it takes time. But to see her 16, not even 16 years old yet, and she's up there doing a play, and man, I was just like, it was a crazy mix of emotions. I even posted it on my Instagram.
Oh wow.
But
Uh,
yeah, just kind of like rambling a little bit. But it's just like,
no.
what was the original point there we were talking about? I
Oh
just
no, you're
started.
good. You're good. I was just talking about like the hard work ethic and like how it goes and opens doors and such.
So my point, without so I don't go too far from that. My point is, again, just holding yourself accountable, and always, just working hard, because that's gonna, you know, lead to more opportunities. Lead to more opportunities. So
Absolutely.
that's what I talked to my daughter about. Make sure that you're doing the best that you can, and everything that you do, because it will open more doors. It's going to open a lot of doors for you.
I really
You know?
appreciate how you look at like how your daughter is doing the play too, just because like you gotta think at that age like you don't know that like the small things aren't the end of the world. I mean, like you're at a young point where it's like, oh, I said the wrong thing on stage, like everyone's gonna make fun of me, and it's the end of the world. Like you don't know at that age, so that takes a lot of courage, and it's
It
definitely something
does,
to be
it does,
proud of.
bro. Super proud, and it's funny because um, before before they went, so the play. Actually, one of the days that I didn't get to go, I had to go to a meeting, and her and her friend came over like two. It was like 2 hours before the play, and they were already in their outfits and stuff and their makeups on, and they were both super nervous, but her friend was very nervous, right? So I talked to my daughter, like like I talked to them both, like her friend was my daughter as well, and I told them exactly what you just said, like, what's the worst that could happen? You forget a line, um, you know, you know, you get nervous, you freeze a little bit. Um, it's not the end of the world. At that age, it's hard to understand that, right? Like you said, people are gonna laugh at me, but I said that none of that matters. None of that matters. It's so as long as you realize that, you'll be able to perform at your very best at that moment. So yeah, you nailed it with that. I remember talking to them about that, and then when I went over there, they both killed it. Everybody killed it. The kids did amazing, but it takes that also. It comes with experience. Some people get it later in life, get that point later in life where you know we worry so much about the small things. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Like
Yeah, and it's funny because there's these quotes that are like, uh, I don't know. I'm not a super religious person, but like,
yeah, me neither. But
worry is they say worry is praying to the devil, and like worry is who was it? Wei Po Yang. He was this monk that studied, I want to say, Buddhism. I heard this in a story, but he was on his deathbed, and they're interviewing him to see what he learned from studying this like certain aspect of Buddhism his entire life. And his
okay.
response to that was that worry is preposterous because anything you worry about, nothing's going to change by you worrying. The only thing you're going to do is subconsciously make acts to make that more likely to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And
100%,
so
man.
it's better to just let things flow and roll with the punches than to worry about it and ruin today.
I agree. I agree. There's so many good like philosophers, and like I said, like the Buddhism. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't heard that one, but it's that was great. Um, and one thing that I've learned from a lot of the readings that I do, because I'm not religious either. Um, uh, we could go down that talk about that all day, right? Religious, spiritual, stoics, philosophers. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing, another thing that I tell my kids is like, is I'm not raising them in that way. I said in the future, you figure out, what beliefs you want to have. My parents, they were Christian, so to speak, but they never imposed that on us, and I'm grateful for that. You know, like they didn't make us go to church like 2 or 3 times a week because it needed to be done because there's a certain God. Like with all due respect, again, like I respect everybody's beliefs. I have friends that from all religions, but my mindset is like we don't know. We
Mm-hmm.
don't know. So one thing we do know, back to the point, is that there's good and there's bad. We know good from bad, right? So that's what I try to tell my kids: wake up and every day try to do good.
Exactly.
That's it. We make mistakes, but try to do good. You know, good from bad, do good, and you'll be.
Exactly.
So we do know that. That's pretty much how I carry myself with that aspect of it.
Well,
But and another thing that I do, I like to tell them is stay in the present moment. Going back to your, the what you said about worrying, which was awesome. A lot of people worry, or so when you're thinking about what's going to happen, you're worrying, right? That eventually leads to like anxiety, like extreme, like panics and stuff. And when you're thinking about stuff that already happened, that goes down the path of depression and sadness. So when people come to me for advice, I tell them the best thing that I've done is stay in the present moment. That's the only thing we can control. So I feel like that helps me. That helps me, you know, carry myself throughout the day. I'm not overwhelming. I don't overwhelm myself for the most part. I don't stress out because I'm just, knocking back goal after goal. And I have a very busy schedule. I mean, a lot of people do, but I'm on the go pretty much all day.
Absolutely.
So, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But the way that I'm able to manage a lot of things is by staying in the present moment. So I've callous my mind to stay in the present moment. Like right now, we're talking here, having a conversation about life and whatnot. This is my focus right now.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm done with this, then we'll see what's next. It's pretty laid back
Absolutely.
right now because I'm on vacation, but yeah,
That's great.
most part, I'd probably get out of this podcast with you, and I'd be running to get the kids and get something for them to eat or something for the dogs. I got 2 dogs. We got like 2 more babies there.
Mm-hmm.
Get ready to teach or train, and then back to the grind in the morning. 4 in the morning, I'm up. If it's a work day, ready to go, travel. But
Absolutely.
but yeah, that would be the biggest advice I would give people. Staying in the present moment really helps a lot.
Yeah, and it's cool because there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, there's this, what is it? Going to like how we were talking about how to treat people. If you look at kind of like all religions, it kind of goes towards there every single one kind of has this idea of trying to be a good person and everything. And
For
so
sure.
there's this theory. I don't know if I believe in it or I don't. I'm not really sure, but it kind of deals with like the reincarnation type deal. Like, oh, we come back as whatever and stuff. And I have no thoughts on it. Whoever
Yeah,
believes it. That's cool. But I
I
think it
respect that. Yeah,
lends to this cool. It kind of goes to the golden rule. So the theory I heard was that we all we don't just like live our own life. Like when you die, you come back as someone else that's lived because we're all like part of this big like thing that's moving through space and time.
okay.
So you know the golden rule, right? Treat others how you want to be treated.
Yeah,
It can almost like come from that idea is that like, oh, you know, I'm so and so and I'm gonna eventually live that person's life. I might as well go out of my way to make their day better because like maybe I'm gonna need that in the future. And it's kind of like this nihilistic kind of not nihilistic, but like this self-centered but in a good way, because
yeah,
like you're looking
yeah,
out for everyone.
for sure.
And so there's that, and then there's the Dalai Lama said not that long ago, or maybe it was a long time ago. I saw the quote the other day. If you can help, help. If you can't help, don't hurt.
I like that one too. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's just kind of like go out of your way to be a nice person. It makes the world a better place. And it's like what do you get from being an asshole to someone? Nothing.
nothing at all. Nothing at all.
And you could help someone's day out by just saying hi to
Yep,
them. So,
yep. We definitely need more of that, man. Just it's unfortunately we can't change people's mindset, but we live in a much better society if people, for whatever reason, whatever like we know good from bad. We talked about that, and like you said, you just mentioned reincarnation, religion. We talked a bunch of stuff. Whatever your reason is, I don't care. But if it allows you to do what you just said, help, be good to other people, be kind, and when you can help, help. When you can't, don't hurt them. I don't care what your beliefs are to do it. It's you're good in my book. So
mm-hmm.
we just need more good, genuine people, man. We help each
Absolutely.
other out. It makes the world a better place. Like echoing what you just said. What do we get out of being miserable and intentionally hurting somebody? To the
No.
littlest thing. I see it all the time, man. I start work and people come in with a extra large coffee and a cigarette. And it's like this is first of all, you're harming yourself like 5 in the morning. Like that's a great choice for a breakfast there, buddy. And then like it's like, not saying though it's like they start the day. It's like not even to other people, but to themselves. Like when you start the day off or you're going through the day, just everything is a problem. Like I see people like, oh man, like I got so much work to do, and the day. I got this, I got that, I got to work with this person. I just like got so much on my plate. I'm like, well, you're just setting yourself up for failure, and it's just a bad mindset to have. Where I like doing the opposite. I another thing that I do is like I'm grateful for everything, like for the good and the bad. Like if it's like an obstacle, I'm grateful for that. I got to figure out how to deal with this. I wake up and I say I'm grateful I get to work. People are like, oh, I have to go to work, and I tell my kids change your vocabulary from I have to I get to. And they're like, what? I'm like, well, just listen. I say, instead of you having to go to school, you get to go to school. Some people don't get to do that. Like, instead of saying I have to go and do these chores, I get to. I have my own room. I get to have my own room. I get to play with these toys once I'm done. It's like just that one switch is complete, makes every single statement completely different. I have to work 8 hours. I get to work 8 hours. You know?
It's funny because I've seen a lot. For one, I love that. That's amazing. And I actually do see. I follow kind of a lot of like kind of positive mindset stuff like that, and like there is a lot of that people talking about. Hey, it's not. Here, I'll put in a quote from Denzel Washington talked about this. And he goes,
Okay.
I don't see problems as problems. I see problems as opportunities. So when someone comes up to me and they're complaining and they're like, "Oh, I got this problem," and he's like, he responds to them. He said, "Now, what a great opportunity that is. Oh, my girlfriend dumped me, and oh, it's terrible in this. Well, what a great opportunity to be a better person in the future. That
Sure. Yes,
is."
sir. Yep.
Because like you gotta think like we get to these mindsets like you said experience. You have to experience all these different things to kind of come to the amalgamation that you have as a mindset. And the things that happen to us, the stimuli we respond to, it's how we respond to it that we grow as people. So I
I agree.
really appreciate that you're someone that has this very positive. I think positivity is what everyone needs, and it's not that we can change people's mindsets, but we can plant a seed.
Yeah, that's what I try to do every day, man. Yeah, we can't change people, but all we could do is try to, plant the seed. That's the best. I can't word it any better than that.
Thank
That
you.
was awesome. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
there's actually Snoop Dogg, I think, was talking about this, and he's like, because you were talking about going to work and like someone starting the day off with a cigarette, and he's like, if you look at work negatively, like you were saying, and you have to go to work, you're not gonna, and money is the first thing you think about. You're not gonna get anything out of the job. Even if you hate your job, you might as well go into it and treat it like it's the best job there is and it's your dream job, because then you'll get the most out of it. You'll work hard, you'll get to a better point, and then then you'll get offers to do whatever you want to do.
hmm
So, and
Yeah,
it's awesome to see
it all
that like
connects.
that's where you're at.
It all connects, man. It all connects. We stated it earlier, right? Like, um, people are always watching. So, like, you have that hard work ethic. You grind. You have you're grateful for everything. It's just like people are gonna see that. You think that going back to the one I just stated, that guy from Polder would have came up to me if he saw me complaining all the time and not getting work done. No, I created that opportunity by by working hard and treating my job like you said. It's the best job. It's the best job ever, even if it's not. Even if it's not. And another thing to add to that is like if you don't like the position that you're in, you're the only one responsible to change it. So even if you have to stay at that job for a little bit, obviously we can't stop. We need an income. Money's not the most important thing, but it is necessary, right? We need it to pay bills, put food on the table. But like what I say to those people that think like that is like if you really don't like the position that you're in, you're responsible to change it. Find something that you do enjoy doing, even if the money's not exactly the same at the start. Find something that makes you happy. You know,
Absolutely.
I've worked with people that are like, yeah, I just like I found a job and I worked 25 years and just kind of waiting to retire. I'm like, that's a terrible way to kind of go about life, man. Like, I had a buddy tell me that, like, man, yeah, it's like if I he came over. He's one of the salesmen for us as well. He's like he was working another job. I think it was like a factory job. He's like, yeah, but I would have just stayed here, man. I would have just sat down for 20 years and just like, rolled this thing out. I'm like, no, I'm happy that you're over here. It's like he's doing a great job, and it's just that's I don't know.
Well, it's
We we
corrosive.
it's very corrosive. Yeah, we have to understand we have control. We have control of our path. So it's like just talking about the work, like like
Yeah,
you got a call. You nailed it with the even if you don't you're it's not you're not very happy with your job. I mean, if you still got to go, man, make the best of it. And
exactly.
if you're really not happy, man, you control what's going on in your life, so you could change that, and surprisingly very fast too. You know, it doesn't take much. A couple of trainings for something, going back to college while you're working, whatever it may be. But you have to take that. You have to take that jump. You got to be willing to grind and work hard. But it's very few people could say like, oh yeah, this. I mean, this was handed to me. Like
Absolutely.
I don't. I think we both agree. I don't think anything's been handed. Nothing's been handed to me, man. Like
No.
it happens. Hey, you're born into a rich family, or like you inherited something. Hey, good for you, right?
Hmm.
But most of us have to grind, and it's how hard are you willing to grind to get to where you want to get? You know,
Exactly.
to be happy.
Yeah,
So.
in that mindset's like the idea that going back to kind of like you talking about your friend that like was saying I would have stayed there for 20 years. Like we have this, we're fed this like almost like a false sense of security because, and we kind of touched on it when you were talking about layoffs. It's like you don't know
Hmm.
when the economy is gonna kind of like shit the bed or
Oh yeah.
something, and your companies, they can care all they want about you, but like they gotta make cuts when they gotta make cuts. So like you gotta have a, not even a backup plan, but like have enough personal sovereignty to like kind of be able to move through different areas and jobs and such. And
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're one of those people that is like, oh, I'm just gonna do 20 years here and I'm good, like unless you're in one of those like jobs where it's like absolutely guaranteed, like I don't know,
It's
in the very
bro.
few positions.
It's just very corrosive, like you said. Such a bad way to go about it. Like it's just for the person in general, just their lifestyle is bad. I can't envision myself like just like you're pretty much settling, and then like you said, you don't know what can happen. Like at the end of the day, it's a business. Like you could create these almost family like bonds with whoever's running the company, but when it's time to call certain shots, it doesn't matter how much they like you, man. They could love you, and it's like, sorry, man. Like I'll give you a story about like what just recently happened. It applies to what we're talking about. So the Coke manufacturing center is out in Northampton, Mass. Is should be closed by now. I don't really stay in touch. It's not really part of our field, but they're closing it and they're moving it down to Connecticut. So everybody's getting laid off. They're getting like what do you call it? Like a package. You know.
A severance package.
Thank you. I forgot that. That's exactly what it is.
Just gonna
But
hold you right there real quick. That is public knowledge though, right?
what's that?
That public knowledge that that's happening.
That's public knowledge. Yeah.
Okay, cool. As long as it's public knowledge, I just didn't want to get you in anything like if we had to cut it out or anything. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. No, no. So it's like, yeah, they're it's well known that they're closing down.
Oh,
So I
okay.
was just on a person that worked there, and it was the same situation where they like were expecting to retire, and all of a sudden they're without a job because they
Well,
didn't.
actually, that happened to my dad. He worked Wonder Bread overnights for 30 years, and they pushed back his retirement. He was supposed to retire at 40. Then they pushed it
Okay.
back to 55, and then they pushed it back to 65, and then they liquidated the company. So Wonder Bread now does not have any of the same people that it had. They just sold the recipes and everything when they liquidated the company and the name.
Mm.
So my dad worked for that company for so long, and I'm pretty sure like he won't even like get his pension when it's time because like apparently like the money's gone.
Yeah, it's tough business, man. But like we
Yeah.
talked about, at the end of the day, like once it's time, they gotta these companies got to make decisions. It's we're they're not gonna worry so much about us. So we have to. It goes back to having that mentality to be able to regroup,
Mhm.
and just keep grinding, keep grinding. There's
Yeah.
always gonna be opportunities. So
Yeah, man, and like that's the thing. Like I feel like that was sold and was more of a thing before the 2000s.
yeah,
Like because I feel like the American economy almost like, and I'm not an economist, I don't know, but it just seems like back, you know, 40 years ago, like that was more achievable. Like just being somewhere and then like retiring and like Social
hmm
Security was in a better spot and um, probably pensions and everything like the
everything
Teamsters.
was in a better spot. I think. Yeah,
Yeah, and well, I wouldn't say everything. I mean, if we're talking about social rights and stuff, it could have been a dumpster back then. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like we've come a long way socially. It's just like our companies are in a different spot. I think the economy is more fluid than it was.
Yeah.
Um, but going back to where are we at now?
Talking about work, and we talked about our mindset for work and
Yeah,
stuff.
you.
That's pretty much that's pretty much been my work history. I haven't jumped from a lot of jobs, so I've had what, one, two, three jobs,
Oh
and
wow.
two of them have been kind of like connected with one another for the last 15 plus years.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, started off at the grocery store. Haven't stopped working since.
There's actually I did want to ask you. You told me this story when we met
Right.
about a guy at the grocery store that gave you kind of like a good opportunity after seeing you work so hard. I think you
Yep.
were saying him earlier.
I
But
mentioned him earlier, Jose. Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Still stay in touch with him. Not as often as I would like, but he lives in town still, I believe. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm very very grateful for him. That's gave me a huge opportunity. Honestly, that's where I feel like with his help, I'm grateful. I'm at where I'm at today, and that's you know we touched on that too. Building relationships, building relationships. Showing the hard work ethic. Because the first thing he told me is like, I didn't know him. It was about a year that I knew him at the time. He's like, I just saw something in you, like I could have picked one of my other friends that I know for like 10, 15 years. But he's like, I saw something in you. You had a kid. You're young. You were driven, and he gave me the opportunity, and I just I took the chance, and it was a blessing.
Absolutely. And would you call him kind of like almost like did he come in as like a mentor role kind of?
Yeah, yeah, he's like definitely. There's no very, I hope everybody gets to experience that, but there's going to be a moment in your life where somebody comes in and they make a big impact. Like obviously, excluding family members, like it's somebody like that. Like we just happened to cross paths in my first job. He was the assistant manager. Like shortly after, too, I was already working there. He came over, I think, from the other another a partner, a chain, another chain. And it just the way it lined up is that you couldn't write a better story. So you know, I think most people will experience something like that it will change their life, and it's your decision whether you're gonna take that opportunity and run with it.
Yeah.
So
I think that's something that kind of is lost in modern society for the most part because no one really talks about like everyone's heard the word mentor and kind
hmm
of has a general idea of it, but like I don't think many people like you see this most successful people like in our society, whoever they are, they
right.
came up through learning through other people. There's this another kind of motivational speaker guy, but he wasn't. He was more of like a life coach type guy. I don't know. I don't remember his name, but he was in like the 1960s, I want to say, 50s and 60s. Um, but he went to college for a year and he was like, this isn't for me. And so he started working and he didn't love his job. But then he met a guy that his friend knew and he became his mentor and he's very successful and all this. And he sat by, like, he worked for him for, I think he said it was like 5 years and learned everything he could about the guy. And like, he was his mentor and all this stuff. And it's very just interesting. And like, I feel like we need more people understanding like what a mentor is, and I think it'd give more respect because I feel like there's also a very big loss of respect for our elders with the younger generations, my generation
Yep.
included, where like people don't really care as much. It seems like.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. That that's something that, like, talking about mentor is like, I have one, my head instructor in jujitsu. You know, using jujitsu as an example, I he's helped me out so much, and in the time that I've been with him since he opened his academy in Springfield, over in Springfield, 2017, and I look back at it then and like to the present day, and it's like from learning the martial art, self defense and sport wise, to actually giving me the reins to be an instructor as well. Like, he's been a huge, just a great mentor for me. And it's like I tell him, he's a mentor, just a great head instructor, um, like a big brother to me. So it's helped me do the same thing for other people. So now people come to me, and I love it, man. First of all, I could talk about jujitsu all day, but like, that's one of my favorite things when I go to class. Like, I train, I might be teaching on certain days, and we get the rounds in, scrap, and then afterwards it's just like thinking about, guys will come over and ask me. A lot of guys will ask me right after the roll, like, and mind you, we do 5 minute rounds, so you're going 5 minutes straight, duking it out, and then they'll be like, "Oh, what do you think I did?" So I'm like, sometimes I'm tired, so I'm like, "Hey, give me a few minutes," and I'll kind of try to break it down in my head, right? But sometimes it's like I was flowing, it might be a lower range, so I flowed with them so well that if they do ask me, I could give them an immediate answer, like, "Well, you were very you were a little bit too open with your guard passing, so it didn't allow you to control me very well, or maybe like they attempted a submission. I said you messed up here." Give them the details, right? So my mentor, my head instructor, has helped me out in a way and literally gotten me to a point where I can now be a mentor to other people in jujitsu. So touching on that
Absolutely.
subject, it's like definitely in jujitsu, it's been a big part of my life where I could share the knowledge and experience that
So
I've gotten in
what
competition with teaching.
what got you into jujitsu? Like, where did that come from?
So yeah, so now with jujitsu, funny thing is, I was born in PR. Boxing is huge, right? Like, I was raised watching boxing, Miguel Cotto, Tito Trinidad, all the legends from Puerto Rico. Um, did a little bit of boxing, me, Felix, my other brother, when we were teenagers, but that was short lived. But that's pretty much like the number one combat sport. I finished high school again. We talked about the work. I was just working, and I want to say I was like in my mid 20s, and we were watching a pay-per-view. It was, I believe it was, I want to say it was the Manny Pacquiao and Miguel Cotto. Do you know who those guys? You know who
Hmm.
Manny Pacquiao is, right? You know
Yeah.
who Miguel Cotto?
Hmm.
Miguel Cotto? Yeah, one of the biggest. I mean, that's my favorite boxer. One of the biggest stars from out of Puerto Rico. So I believe it was that one. And then the UFC came on, and again, like, I thought, I'm not a big fan of like the WWE stuff and all that. Like, so I thought the UFC, I compared it to that. I'm like, this stuff is fake, right? They had like a 1 minute clip, guys flying all over the place in the cage. Shortly after, I saw another one, and I'm like, oh, these guys are beating each other up. Like, this, I mean, either it's staged really well, or I'm like, I gotta see what this is all about. And I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, it's just all the martial arts combined. You can use everything, right? So that you know piqued my interest. I said I really want to check this stuff out. So at the same time, my sister was dating a wrestling kid that wrestled there for a Dean. It's a high school that closed down here in Holyoke. Um, he became a Western Mass champion, and he qualified for states. Great kid. We're actually very close friends to this day. So they broke up, but we made that connection through the martial arts. Like he wrestled, and I said I wanted to get into that stuff, and we started training together at the YMCA
Oh
right here
wow.
in Holyoke. We trained, so we would literally use there's the small building behind it. I forget what it's called. There's a small building behind the Holyoke YMCA. We would take the accordion mats, the folding ones, open
Mhm.
them up, and we would just literally beat each other up. This was back in 2015.
Oh
So
wow.
2015 was the start of my journey, just with a buddy of mine's. It was my sister's boyfriend at the time, and we went from training to like 6 months later going to competitions
Wow.
without a team. Without a team, that's what fascinates a lot of people. Like I tell them that, and my head instructor will say the same thing. Like, yeah, he started with me, but he was already competing without a team. I would go to these like tournaments and sign up with no affiliation, and just like I got beat up like the first few tournaments. I started noting some down because I have a journal, and I won gold. I got first place in my third tournament,
Wow.
and just off the stuff that I was learning with my buddy, his name's Carlito. Just like wrestling, sloppy wrestling at that, but just like body locking people, taking them to the ground, getting points. I won a tournament in New York in Albany, 3 matches. One got first place, and then after that, it was like just competing at like every other week up until COVID hit. Up in, what slowed me down was COVID because it changed everybody's life. Schedule wise and just like the kids for school. So ever since then, it hasn't been the same. Like I'm competing here and there. Now I'm taking like what they call super fights for promotions. But yeah, I was from 2020, early 2015, sorry, early 2016 up until 2020. So I was at 4 years competing about 40 matches a year.
Wow.
So I have about 200 matches. Just,
That's a
I just,
lot.
I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. I didn't, I didn't officially start with an academy until the instructor I'm with now, he came back home from Phoenix and he opened the academy in Springfield, like I said, in 2017.
Oh,
So I
cool.
went about a year and some change, but almost a year and a half, literally just like competing and winging this thing on my own. And I built a pretty good foundation, but once I started training with a team is when my skills, and technique skyrocketed. I'm
Yeah.
like, this was the missing piece. This was the missing piece for
That
sure. You could learn a lot of things on your own, and especially if you're driven, but like you still need like it kind of lines up with the whole mentor thing, and being around the right people, building the right relationships. So
yeah.
that I was blown away once I started training in the academy. I was like, oh man, like there's so much that I need to learn. You
Well,
know,
I have a question. So, what how are you taking so many like matches when these guys for like UFC and stuff, they do like 8, 9 week build-ups for each of their matches. So is that kind of
so
like what you're talking about with the super matches?
yeah, so jujitsu, compared to the UFC, and UFC, you're striking, and again, that's the elite level. But even in the local, the regional circuit, guys they're doing like 8 week camps, as they should, because you have to invest so much time in multiple areas. Where in jujitsu, you're just grappling. Now, again, there's a lot that you need to be training, but it's not we're not doing different things or working on one martial art. Okay, we're creating a game plan and studying one martial art. So that alone is a lot, but it shouldn't take you so long. You don't need an 8 week camp to go and jump into a tournament or do one of these super fights, like especially if you're more experienced.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But MMA, the UFC is you have to take time to condition your body. You have to do sessions of striking, do sessions of cage work, again, fighting against the cage, which, you catch people booing, but until you do that, you don't realize how hard that is. And that'll take you training sessions by in itself. Fighting against the cage is its own art. Then you have the wrestling, you have the ground fighting, jujitsu, the like I said, striking, hands, feet, kicking, punching, right? There's a lot. There's a lot. So you definitely you're setting yourself up for failure if you're not creating these camps.
Yeah.
That's probably the best I could give you. Like that's the difference between just one martial art versus MMA.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, I think
it should.
Felix and you kind of did a good job explaining it to me when we met, by
Yeah,
showing me a few things.
yeah, yeah. Um. So and then like with what I do, like after you've competed so much, like again, it's just like at this point I'm just so like relaxed that I could jump into a match tomorrow and feel confident, like just off my technique alone, that I'd be able to do pretty good. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I've heard jujitsu be like described as like a chess match. Would you say that like jujitsu is like having a chess game, and then like MMA is like, those like multi-tier chess games? It's like that's kind of like a good, I don't know, and
Jiu-jitsu is described. It's you usually hear it like nickname. It's nicknamed human chess.
yeah.
Because you're trying to set up your game, where at the same time I'm trying to set up my game, and it's like who's gonna make a mistake first? Who's gonna impose their game first? So yeah, that's like the perfect way. You'll hear that all the time if you come train. It's like it's human chess.
Yeah,
Um,
and you got to think of it also like as an attrition based thing because you only have so much cardio built up.
yep, yep. That definitely played a big part in this Saturday's match. The attrition. Like this kid would not. I took his back, and most people like in training, I take their back, and I'm tapping them out, and like it's a matter of time. Like
Hmm.
you know, well, I was on his back for like 4.5 minutes.
Wow.
And the kid would not tap to anything. Like I was smothering him, like neck cranks, trying to get under the chin to finish the rear naked choke. I applied what's called the body triangle. My legs are triangled around his ribs, so I'm compressing his breathing. I told him, I said, man, because we talked after the match, took a picture together, and he said, man, you're a beast. And I said, well, I said you're tough, man. I said, I didn't think, I thought you were gonna go. I thought you were gonna go. Like I thought I was gonna finish you, and like I said, I've never seen somebody survive that. Everybody was saying it like the kid was tough. He was a wrestling champion as well, so he had the edge on me in that. So it was a battle of styles. It was a. I mean, I've competed against so many times, but just like that's what looking back at it, it makes it so much fun. It's like that experience that memory that I built with somebody else. This kid's 23 years old. Like, it's like he probably wasn't even, again, flashback. I started so I've been 6, 7 years. He's like 15 years old. Probably he was still in high school, just starting his wrestling career. And now here we are on a stage competing in jujitsu.
Wow.
Trying to trying to submit each other so we could win. So it's like it's cool when I run into guys like that, because I'm getting a little bit older, and it's like I try to keep myself in the best shape possible, but you know, um, the time's coming where I'm gonna have to stop. So when I get these matches with the younger generation, it's like it's always cool. I
Yeah,
face a lot of I face a lot of guys over the years as I'm going up the ranks, but now I'm seeing a lot of new faces. So I know that the martial art is evolving and getting more popular, and I'm very happy about that.
absolutely. And isn't like the whole style like there's whole new styles coming out. I listened to Joe Rogan a bit, and he was talking about there's this guy that has his created his whole own style because he was actually born without a thumb on one of his hands.
Okay.
I don't remember what
Yeah.
his name was, but he developed a whole style. I forget how it was, but I think it had to do with because he was super good at putting people in rear naked chokes because the
Yeah,
thumb wouldn't get
I believe
caught.
I believe he was talking about John Jacques Machado, his
Yes.
instructor, John Jacques Machado. Yeah, and there's I know of a few people that have no fingers or no hand, and they're very successful in jiu-jitsu.
Huh.
So yeah, it's just kind of like creating your style, working around these obstacles, and making it work for you, making it work for you.
Yeah. Now is this is a question about so like is cauliflower like ear like very common or is it like
See if you can see mine. Hold on, I'm gonna zoom in. I got
oh,
my ear. This ear is completely blocked off.
oh
I
shit.
can't. It's so it's very common, and it's more common with wrestlers get it quicker because they're always clashing heads.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a wrestling style when I was a white belt, but I did more body lock stuff, like try to impose my size and wrap around the person. Where wrestlers trying to they collar tie and they go head to head. That's where you get it. You also get it when you're fighting out of like guillotines, front
Yep.
headlock stuff. Like you want to just like yank your head out of there, so that creates that friction. Also, getting your head smashed to the mat doesn't help.
No,
So when
definitely not.
you're on bottom and you're like, somebody's really smothering you and you're like trying to create that space because you're suffocating. So any of that friction is what causes the blood, like the cartilage to explode
Oh
and
jeez.
blood just starts flowing. And over time, if you don't drain it, it just turns into what they call cauliflower ear. So I don't. This my right ear is pretty good. I got a little bit on my left, but I got some friends that are just like boom, just
Yeah.
monster cauliflower ear. So that's how that happens. So it's very common in grappling. It's like
Okay.
usually if you see that that person trains.
Yeah.
That person's been training quite a bit. Like it's like it would take a freak accident for you. Like it happens over time. Like I said, with friction, some people get like a nice club to the ear and it's like it explodes. But if you drain it, your ear pretty much goes back to normal. But yeah, um,
Wow.
super common in grappling. Super
Yeah.
common.
Well,
I don't get a
I always hear about it. I don't know how it happens, you know?
yeah. It's just that pressure. Like I said, like those are probably like the top three. Like fighting out of strangles, so you're like forcing your head out of a choke or something. That your ear starts burning, and you'll feel it too. Like, oh, my ear's hot. It's feeling hot. It's like, yeah, you tore some of the cartilage inside of your ear, and now it's bleeding in there. It's
Jesus.
bleeding. Yeah, yeah. It's like
Does it make it hard to hear for you at all?
no. I joke around with people though, since I got it inside of the earlobe, right? So like again, if next time we see each other, you'll see it much better. And I have people touch it like, oh shit, it's like a rock. But when people ask me that, because of where I have it the most is right in there, I just go like, what? So I just mess around with them, like like, nah, man, my hearing's fine. I just joke around with it a lot, but no, it's like there's some guys that they get so much of it that they have to get like surgery, but
Yeah.
that's not very common. So for the most part, you could have some pretty nice cauliflower ears, and
Be
the probably
fine.
the biggest problem you're gonna have is putting on earbuds. Like you're gonna have to
Yeah.
be you're gonna have to wear those to run over the ear ones. Mine's fall off all the time.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine.
Oh yeah, this one doesn't stay on too long. Once I get started, I'm running.
Yeah. And so when you're in these matches, are you wearing gis or are you guys just compression fits?
So so good question. So jujitsu, we have gi, we have the gi, and we have when you're wearing compression, we call that no gi. So you have two different styles. All right.
Okay.
Some people specialize in both. Some people just stick to one. Um, the game is evolving now, and I feel it's going in a direction where the gi is not it's not going to be it's still going to be popular, but not no gi is going to be it's definitely the direction where it's heading, where it's attracting more people, new students, and just like it's honestly more exciting because my opinion. In the gi, you could control someone, right? So it's very good, like they're both good for self defense. But in sport, think about this: with the gi, if I get a good grip, you get a good grip, and we're being stubborn, we could literally just like stalemate very easily. Whereas no-gi, you need to get control, some kind of control that doesn't require clothing. So you need to get like wrist control, where I could strip very easy, especially if I'm sweaty. You need to get a control on my head, where while you reach, I could probably go and get some other kind of control. So
Mm-hmm.
we rely more on like wrist control, underhooks that's going under the armpit, overhook going over the tricep and shoulder. We rely on collar ties to snap people down. Okay, so it's a lot more work to get grips and no-gi, making it more fast paced.
Oh, okay.
It's more fast paced. It's a lot of action. It's like you can't if you hold somebody down, you definitely got very good grips. You set yourself up very nice. So that's there is both. Back to your point, so you could train in the gi, train without the gi. Actually, our academy specializes in no gi.
Oh,
Is
okay.
we're a no gi academy. We all like a lot of the higher ranks. I own 3 gis, so I'll still throw it on from time to time. But I specialize in no gi. Going back to that point, um, some people are better at the gi. So we could be the same rank, but they might beat me in gi because I'm not putting it on so much, and they're wearing it they're training every day in that bad boy, and then they come to no gi, and I smash them because again they haven't taken off the gi enough. So it's human chess, man. It's human
Yeah.
chess. Like it's like there's so many different things. Like I could deep dive into like again gi no gi, styles, athletic attributes. Like some people just come in with this freak athletic ability. It just helps you. It only helps. Those are like cheat codes we call them. Flexibility, super strong, really fast, quick side to side movements. These are all like attributes that you can't teach. You can't teach that stuff.
No.
So what I could teach you is the technique and the concepts. If you bring any of that extra stuff in, it's like it's just an advantage.
Yeah, it's like a
It's I
born and
love it,
bred
man. It's
monster.
was that?
Like a born and bred monster.
Oh yeah, there's some guys brand new, and I just like we clinch, and I'm like, geez, this kid is strong, man. Like once he gets the understanding of how to move his body and move the other person, it's gonna be a problem keeping that guy down.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, again, being training for so long, I roll with people, and I could pretty much tell. I'll still ask them if I don't know them. Like we start with the slap bump. You've probably seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
Slap hands. We start the match or the training session, and I'm casually, like I'll ask them like within the first few seconds. Yeah, so how long you been training? I try to stay away from the rank thing. I won't ask them their rank. But it's like just asking them how long they've been training to like get the 2 year, 3 year, whatever it is. I could kind of gauge where they're at skill wise. You
Okay.
know, I was rolling with a guy the day before, actually the day of. I went the morning of, and I got to loosen up at the academy, and some guy dropped in, and he was training 5 years.
Wow.
So okay, like I could kind of push the pace a little bit on him, and he was pretty good. He was pretty good. It was a fun roll.
There
We
you
flow
go.
rolled, and so yeah, it's like there's so many. It's what makes it just so much fun, man. Like there's so many different aspects to it.
It's interesting. This is probably not a great comparison, but it kind of reminds me of like how golf
Yeah.
is.
Okay, I gotta hear
Because
this. Yeah.
so when you're golfing, like people look at golf and they kind of like, it's stupid, like all this shit. And you got to think like you need to learn the entire, like it's one of the hardest sports there is, and on an individual level, because
Okay.
it's just you, the conditions, the ball, and like I'm not a good golfer, but like me trying to get better in that, like I kind of can see you have to learn the technique of like the swing, where like what the loft of the ball is on the grass, if there's even grass at the course you're playing, like where your ball
Yeah.
landed, like that all has effect on it. Like when you're swinging the angle, like you could just barely move your wrist, and like that your technique's everything. So like if I am taking my driver, like almost there's so many people that can't hit a driver straight. You always see people like where it goes off to the side and shit. Like
Yeah.
that's all like just different positioning, how you're swinging, and it's all these micro things. But you have to
I didn't even.
tune all that. just
I
to get
didn't,
it.
yeah, I didn't never got into golf, but like you saying all that, it's like, it's just blew me away. Like, yeah, it's a great comparison. There's a lot of things going on, that,
Exactly.
it's like some are in your control, some are not in your control. So it's actually a pretty good comparison to jujitsu, That
Yeah.
was pretty cool.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad you thought it was a good comparison because I wasn't sure going into that.
Yeah, I was like, I wanted to see, I'm like, where's this gonna go? Like, because I don't honestly I don't
Golf.
understand anything about golf at all.
Oh
Like, I
yeah.
have some friends that play it. They're like, I love it. Maybe I'll have to try it out. I
Yeah,
have to try
man.
it out
I think
sometime.
it's one of those things. Well, that's what draws me to it. Is like I've always been fucking terrible at it. So it's like
Yeah,
I want to try this and
yeah, yeah.
see
And
if I
you
can.
like it?
Oh, dude, it's so much fun. It's
Oh, I'm gonna have to try it, man.
it's so hard and like you go out. I mean, I don't know like how like I don't usually drink a lot, but I'll have a beer or two on the course and you go and you just try and get like you have to like oh if I hit my ball here I'm good at hitting my like pitching wedge from to 150 so I want to put it I'm 400 yards out so I want to get it to 150 you're not trying to get it all the way to the hole so you're positioning yourself where you're the most accurate with that club so it's kind of like a chess game too but you're not like facing anyone really you're just kind of trying to make yourself better
Yeah,
so there's this like challenge. I don't know. There's something about being bad at something and trying to get better at it that has this like essence, and it's so much more rewarding when you like do it.
for sure, man.
Think that's why a lot of people like jujitsu and like training and stuff too.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, a lot of people find it, from what I've heard, I don't train, but like find it humbling, and then like you get like addicted to it because like there's so much room for improvement. There's always going to be someone better that you can train to get.
You never stop learning, man. Like, it's like, it's helped me out so much in life. Again, with my mindset, with just the way I see things is very, like you said, you nailed it. It's very humbling. Um, you got to leave that ego at the door, man. Like, some people, very few people I've met. I've been training for a long time, and like it's a handful. I could count on one hand like the people that I've met that came in like they think they're gonna beat people up. I'm like, this isn't. You're not gonna last. You're not gonna last. If that's your mindset when you're coming in and your goal is to learn this martial art because you want to be the tough guy, or yeah, it's like I got a guy. I caught a guy. This was years ago. I was rolling with him and I put him in a triangle choke. That's the one with the where you wrap your legs around. And I spun him, so I had the triangle choke locked on. And Felix was actually at this training session, so he could tell you about this one. This was at when so we were still at the old academy. We're actually in Agawam now. Um, I had him and I felt him tap, so I let it go. We're just training. Like, I don't lock anything out. I give people chances, right? Um, and he's like, "Oh, well, I didn't tap." I said, "Oh, well, I thought I felt you tap, right?" So I'm still, mind you, I'm still on top of him. I just loosened the triangle. He's like, "No, I got that Taino blood." And I said, "Well, you're gonna tap eventually." So I locked it back on and I strangled him. And then he tapped like 2 seconds later.
Oh my
And
god.
I said, "What was the point of that?" I didn't make a big deal about it, but I thought that was hilarious. I tell people that story. So
It's
this was
like
like, and of course, this guy's no longer around,
yeah.
right? Um, so it's like you can't have an ego. I tell people, do not compare yourself. Well, this is the advice I give them: do not compare yourself to anybody else because, like you said, there's levels. There's always going to be somebody better than me, somebody better than the next guy that's a higher rank than me. I face up to black belts at this point in the competitions that I've done because I have to compete in advance because of the time I've been competing already. So when I go to a tournament, I have to compete at the top skill level. So I fight black belts. Even though I'm still, I'm a seasoned purple belt at this point. I just hit my anniversary in September, 3 years at purple.
Wow.
Um, so where was I going with this? Like, this always going to be, again, somebody better. So don't compare. I don't compare myself to those guys. I take that experience, whether I win or lose, and I just run with it. Like, I see what I could do better. I'm grateful for it. But the main thing that I tell guys is compare yourself to yourself. If that makes sense. In this journey, jujitsu journey, are you better than what you were last week? Are you better than what you were a month ago? Can you like as a person, have you grown? As a martial artist, have you grown? You know, like if you want to talk about like beat somebody up, like can you beat yourself up a month ago? And
Yeah.
like some guys are like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, so you're getting better because that's another thing too. Like, as beautiful as a martial art is, some people get down on themselves because they feel like they're not growing. Like you have a bad day, or like this athletic white belt comes in, and let's say you're a blue belt, for example, you get beat up, and it's like, oh man. And I've seen it all, man. Like, and I'll talk to guys, and they're like, Louis, I don't feel like I'm getting better. I feel like I kind of like stalled out a little bit. And I said, well, how do you feel your game has evolved, from last month, or even let's go back a year ago? And he's like, well, I've gotten better at my guard passing, or my takedowns. So always compare yourself to what like the previous version of yourself, especially in this martial art. It applies to life as well, I think. But when you start comparing yourself to other people, looking at what other people are doing, like you're setting yourself up for failure. You're not putting that energy into the right things in jujitsu.
Absolutely.
So
I think that's a
you
big
know,
life lesson too that like a lot of people got to
yeah,
learn. It's tough. That's not an easy thing to do, but it kind of harkens back to like what we were talking about earlier. It's like you end up comparing yourself to others. It's like you end up with this nihilistic view where you're not going to be like looking for your opportunities and things like that.
yeah, man, yeah,
You feel like you stalled out usually because you haven't been like looking at the big picture. You're just looking at this one segmented thing and like yeah, it's like for someone in a job, you sit there and you're like, oh, I've been making the same amount for 2 years now and I haven't gotten a raise. Like you're looking at the money, man. What did you learn from the past 2 years of being at this job? What crazy
right.
experiences have you had on the job where shit's going wild, but you're now like back then you were super worried and like, oh my god, what do I do? Whereas like now, if that situation happened, you learned so much just to stay
Hmm.
calm and like be in the moment to and take a deep breath and take care of the situation and let it go through. And that's what you get from that. It's not just the money. So it kind of just goes like that. You got to open your eyes, like you were saying, to everything that's going on.
Yeah, but yeah, with jujitsu, man, just to wrap that up. Unless you have any more questions, is like I encourage you. I've been trying to get Connor to go.
Oh,
I've been
really?
trying to. I try to get everybody to go, man. Like it's like people will ask me anywhere, work, and whether I'm out, and if it pops up in conversation, especially if I'm with Felix and like we go out to Francie's or to eat. Oh, he's gonna let everybody know.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yes, kid is he's I love that kid, man. It's
He's
he'll
great.
he'll he'll put me on a pedestal, like, oh
Oh,
no,
yeah.
my brother is savage, man, and this and that. Like, nobody's gonna want to fight me out here, man. But
Oh my god,
yeah, yeah,
I remember the night he introduced me to you. He comes up to the bar. I said hi to him, and I'm just
yep.
like I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh, who's the guy you're with? He's like, oh, that guy. That's my brother. He's a fucking killer. I'm like, oh shit.
Oh my god.
It was amazing though.
Yeah, but yeah, that was great, man. We had a great conversation that day. I don't know if
Yeah.
we did we run into each other again a
Nah,
second
I
time at
haven't,
France.
dude. I haven't been back to Francie since
You haven't been
then.
back.
Yeah.
So it's all been through the texting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm glad we got to sit down and have the conversation, man. This has been awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man. No, I appreciate you, man. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you
Thank
for
you
having me
for
on.
taking your time to come on, man. And where can people find your academy if they want to get involved in it? And
The
maybe like, do you have like a social media presence for it at all?
Yeah, for sure. So the social media handle for he's on Facebook, so you could easily find it just putting in 10. I'm not on Facebook, so I think it's just like you punch in 10th planet Springfield, Mass, and the academy page will pop up on Facebook. He's also on Instagram with the handle 10p Springfield, Mass, and my handle, which I literally just use Instagram to post about jujitsu, is at Louis Zen. So Louiezen. So you can find all the information through any of that for
All
the
right.
academy. It's located on 270 Main Street in Springfield. Sorry, Agawam, Mass. Now. So
Okay.
like it's like you're coming, from like the Big E, you just keep going straight down. You'll
Yeah,
see it
kind of
on the
your
right
club
side.
where the Club Fitness in Springfield is, right? Kind of near there.
No, there's the hood factory with the
Yeah.
milk.
Yep.
Yeah, down there in Agawam. It's
Hmm.
literally across from that.
Oh,
So
okay.
like if you see that, you're right there. It's actually it's a big plot. It's a building called Dragon's Paradise. There's a few smaller offices in the bottom. We're on the second floor.
Okay.
So 270 Main Street. Yeah, but again, you can
Well,
find it on Facebook, Instagram.
hell
Everybody
yeah.
come train.
Hell yeah. Well,
And
thank you,
now I gotta
man.
take you up on golf. I gotta take you up on golf now.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I live right near a golf course with 3 courses at it. So,
All right.
um, but yeah, thanks, man. And everyone, I hope everyone has a good one. Go check out the gym and check out the Instagram. And I hope everyone has a good day. Thanks, man.
All right, guys. Thank you, brother. See you.